Hey everyone, it's Robin Riley for Bello's Designs. Welcome to my Talk Crafty to Me video. Today I'd like to talk to you about creating gift tags from stencils. Here are just a few examples. Before we get into the nitty-gritty here, I want to take a moment and invite you to join us in our Facebook groups. We have two of them. We have the Bello's Design Lounge. That's where we showcase all of the Lavinia products. We have another page called the Bello's Design a la carte, and that's where we showcase all of the other products that Patty has in her shop. Why don't you join us in both of those groups? You'll get lots of inspiration, a lot of great ideas there, and see all of the talented creators that we have. We're on other social media platforms such as Instagram, Pinterest, and TikTok. And if you belong to any of those groups and you want to find us, all you have to do is search this, hashtag Bello's Designs, and you'll see our creations on those platforms. Okay, let's get started talking about these gift tags. So tell me, how cute are these, right? So take a peek at what this would look like on a gift bag. I always add some extra string. That's the one that I use to tie around the handle. But tell me, is that not the cutest? I mean, you could even go as far as decorating the bag itself if it's a plain Kraft bag such as this. That would be so much fun. Now, on this tag itself, I used the newer released stencil from Cardio that's called Raindrops. And I simply used the stencil portion and I inked it. And to be honest with you, I have no idea what colors I used. I just used the ink that was built up on my blending brush. And I inked 1, 2, 3 different teardrop shapes. And then I stamped with Cardio stamps. This set called New Beginnings contains this nest with a branch. It has those little birds, and it also has the fox. The mouse is from, again, Cardio Stamps, Magical Christmas. And then these tall blue flowers that you see here, those come from a set called Backyard Blooms. And I don't know if you can see, but very faintly, there are some yellow flowers stamped through here. And those are from the Textures stamp set. I did add a few dots with a Posca pen in yellow. Don't worry about trying to remember all of the products. They're going to be listed in the description box below. Okay, let's take a look at this sweet tag. I thought this one would be great for a newborn baby girl. Think of all the options you could do with this particular stencil. And look how cute on a gift bag that would be. I think that would be absolutely darling. And again, you could stamp on that bag to provide more interest. So with this particular tag, I used the most current rabbit stencil that Cardio makes, and it comes with several different sizes of rabbits. And again, I cannot tell you the color of pink that I used because I just used what was left over on my blending brush. This, I think I just said that this was called the rabbit stencil. It's actually called the Spring Rabbit Stencil from Cardio. The stamps that I used, this combination of flowers here, these come from the Textures set, a highly recommended set, I must say. Again, from Cardio. And that tiny little heart comes from a Majestic's Sweethearts set. And again, Cardio. Now, how about this stamp? This is for the guys. These are fish. If you take a close look, maybe if I turn it on its side, you can tell that it's fish. A friend of mine sent me these Japanese papers. And what I did is I used the Lavinia stencil, sticker stencil set. And this comes, the fish are in set 3. I used Element Inks on these papers. And once again, I have just used my blending brushes that already contained the inks. And like I have a separate set of brushes just for element inks. That's how I know that I used element inks. But I cannot tell you the combination of greens that I used there because I just used what was left over on the brush. Same thing with the yellow and the same thing with this peachy color. All elements inks. As you can see, I just took some cotton twine and tied around it. I love using bulb pins to add some interest. And then I would hang that off of a gift bag. Now what's nice is, now not particularly with this set because there's writing on the paper, but you can flip it over and you can do your to and from on the back side. Again, depending on what you have on the front. Let me share one more with you. This one is also from a Lavinia sticker stencil set. This came from set 4, and this is a butterfly. I used, if you can look carefully there on the butterfly itself, I did use a Lavinia stencil called Divine to give a little bit of patterning in the background. I stamped with the Fairy Bugs butterfly. That also is a Lavinia stamp. And I'm not sure if the camera will pick this up, but this is the way it stamps and the way it's meant to stamp. And then I did some reverse stamping very lightly in the background. I added another bulb pin with some seed beads and some twine for this one. So you could write on the top of this if you wanted, or just, like I said, flip it over and write your message on this gift tag. Oh, one more stamp I guess I didn't tell you. Those mini dots, those are from Lavinia also. Okay, today I'm going to demonstrate and make with you this particular gift tag. This one is done on Kraft card. And let me go over the supplies that I used to create this. So as I just said, I'll be using some scrap pieces of Kraft card. And that's what's nice about making tags. You can actually just use scraps to create the gift tag. So Kraft cardstock will be the base of the tags. I will be using these Lavinia stamps. This is from the newest release of the Steampunk series. I'll be using the clock, the one with the Roman numerals I'll use today. And this comes from Clock Set LAV 781. Then I will be using the heart, Lavinia LAV 784. And this is the small heart in the series. I am using one of the newer stencils. This one is called Cogs, obviously, right? With all the cogs. I'll be using that for the background. The sticker stencil comes from the very first set of sticker stencils that Lavinia made. It is now called Sticker Stencil Set 1. I will be using the heart. And let's see, I have some inks for here, and the inks will be element inks. I will be shading and stamping in these inks. I will be using truffle along with Bermuda. Blending brushes will be needed, or you use whatever you like to blend with. I will be using that medium-sized brush along with the Lavinia stencil brushes, the really small ones. In here, I'm hoping you can see there's some Bermuda ink. And how I got that on the inside is I actually painted the ink on with a water pen paintbrush. There are some highlighted areas here where I have used a bronze colored glitter pen. Again, I have a bulb pin, a metal cog that I just picked up randomly. I used a piece of cloth along with some cotton string. And I did use my Misty for the stamping, but you don't have to use a Misty. You could definitely do this strictly with an acrylic block. Okay, let's get started on creating this particular gift tag. So to begin with, I want to make the larger heart. I'll start with that scrap piece of card. And I need to get the sticker stencil from the package here. You can see mine is well used and well loved. And what I like to do is naturally I return the pieces to the thin piece of acetate. But I keep one of the pieces on the one side and then the stencil on the other side. For me, it's just easier to do that. You do you, and you do whatever makes life easy for you. But this way, when I go to remove it, I only peel off the piece that I need. And these are reusable. And goodness, I wish I should have kept count how many times I have used this particular stencil, but it's been a lot, and it has remained sticky throughout. So being that this is scrap card, and I'm actually going to be cutting this out, I'm not too concerned about getting this lined up perfectly in the center or straight. That stick is going to actually hold my paper in place. Using the Elements ink in Truffle and a blending brush, all I'm going to do is ink up. I'm gonna tap off some of the excess, and I'm just going to go around the perimeter of this Kraft card. So working my way around, always starting with a light layer first, and I can always come back in and add more ink as I go. I do start with my brush on the actual stencil itself. That way I don't get a big blob of ink where I don't want it. And then I slowly bring it in to the heart itself. So I am going to add a little more around the edge here. And I'm going to leave the center of the heart with a very light area as compared to the outside. Now I'm going to come in with this small Lavinia stencil brush. This is stencil brush number 3. They're extremely tiny, as you can see. And these are great for outlining the edges. So I'm going to ink up again. I'm using that same truffle ink. Starting on to the stencil, I'm going just to go in a circular motion. As you can see, it's laying down a lot of dark ink right against the edge of this stencil. And that is the effect that I am going for. Now, you can do as much and as little as you would like. I'm going to make this one a little bit darker. I think the one I did originally was maybe a little difficult for you to see as far as the edge went. So like I said, you just continue to go in a circular motion. You would not believe how much ink these little brushes can actually hold. So there you can see a difference between both sides, the one that's outlined and the one that's not. But I'm going to continue around and get a little bit of ink on the edge here. I'm not too concerned that it's not even. That actually is better for me in this case, especially on working with the steampunk theme. I'm not too worried about that evenness, just so I get an outline. Okay, so that part is finished. So all I need to do is remove the stencil from the card itself, and there you can see. Now let me show you what I mean about that little piece of acetate. Here is the heart mask. I keep the mask on one side, the stencil on another side. And for me, it's just easier to lay this down, not having to try to match it up perfectly. Now to clean the stencil, all you need is a tad bit of water on a microfiber cloth. Yes, it's going to stain a little depending on the color that you're using, but it doesn't affect the stencil at all. So that's just a real nice way to get it back on without fussing with it. Okay, next I want to bring in the stencil. This is the cogs stencil, and I'm just going to lay it over top of that heart using the Elements ink and a blending brush. I'm just going to add a few cogs in and around that heart. Again, I'm not worried about this being aligned perfectly. I'm just going to add very light coat of the ink. And my ink pad is rather dry, so that kind of helps. I always save my ink pads. I like to keep one old one and one new one. That way I have one that's dry and I don't have to worry about over inking on a project. So let me just add a little more ink on here. And let me show you. Just enough to give a light background of cogs. Again, with your Mylar stencils to clean, you just need that damp microfiber cloth. And I don't rub back and forth hard. I kind of pounce my rag. That way I don't bend any of the points on the cogs, because that can happen, believe me. Okay, now that that's done, I'm going to bring in my Misty along with that other scrap piece of card. Let me place this in, and I'm going to just simply stamp the small heart, and I'm going to be stamping in the Elements Truffle ink. I like stamping with this ink because, number one, it's not real precise, and that's not what I want. I'm not going for precision here. I kind of want that watercolor almost look. I don't need it to be super detailed. I'm going to double stamp because I want it a tad bit darker. So let me get that done. There we go. Clean off my stamp. And at the same time, I'm going to come in with that clock from the clock set, and I'm going to stamp that in the Bermuda ink. Again, I'm not too concerned about a precise, perfect image. All right, that is good enough. Cleaning off my stamp. Now, let me get rid of my Misty. Now for this, let's look at the original. There's a little bit of the Bermuda ink on the inside of that heart. And how I did that is I just took the Elements Bermuda ink, tapped off some onto my work surface, and then I come in with the water pen. And I'm going to just squeeze out a little bit of water. And that was probably way too much water, but that's okay. I can tap off the extra. And I'm going to just add a fine layer of that blue ink. I just want to add a little interest and a little color around this heart. All right, just that simple. And I'm going to mop up some of that excess water, add a little more color, another layer, and set this off to dry. Let me clean off this surface. Now for added interest, again, I used that bronze colored glitter pen, and I simply came in and colored some areas with that pen. Just want to give it that metallic feel. Now, there's other ways you can do this, I know. So, you do you, like I said. But this is a simple way to get that metallic look, is just by using a gel pen. So, as you can see, real simple process. Nothing difficult at all to do. Gel pens work great on Kraft card. Okay, I'm going to do this even though this is wet. Normally I would let this piece dry completely, but I'm going to just come in with that pen again, just giving some interest here and there for the shimmer. And that is it. Now, simply need to cut all this out. So let's take the big heart first. Let me grab my scissors. And I'm going to just trim on the outside of that edge of the heart, the darkest part. Make sure you have a nice sharp pair of scissors when you cut. And remember to, you almost pull your paper through your scissors. That'll give you a nice smooth edge. It won't look so jagged as if you were doing this along the edge. So just give it a press and pull, and then you get a decent cutout. All right. Now, to save time and not to bore you, I had already made a set of these. So I'm simply going to use an adhesive, and I like to use the Designer Dries Clear adhesive. And I am going to apply these onto the main heart. And I only have to adhere half of this heart. And then I'm going to wipe off the excess glue. I'm going to squeeze a bit just under that portion of the heart. This glue dries quickly, but you do have a little bit of time to move your items if need be. All right. The other item that you are going to need as far as a supply is, if at this point you wanted to add some ribbon or some string, you need a hole punch. Now, you can use the sharp end of your scissors and punch just a hole through using that. That works. So if you don't have a punch, use that. It's perfect. But I'm going to grab a punch, and I'm going to make a hole large enough to get my string through. For this heart, I'm not doing the ribbon. I'm actually just going to be using some string, and this is just some cotton string. Goodness knows I pick up cotton string everywhere I go. Bakery boxes sometimes are tied with cotton string. So I put 2 loops through, and then I take the tails of the cotton string, pull it through the loop, and then tighten this. Now I have enough tails here that I could use 2 of these to tie these to the gift bag. Now, if you're not using a gift bag, you could definitely just adhere this to a gift box. I think this particular tag would be great for a guy. You have all this room on the back to write a message if you would like. Just perfect. Now, as far as the bulb pin goes, these are unique. I find them mainly on clothing that I buy, so I save every single one. Some people call them gourd pins. You can see the shape kind of like a gourd or like a light bulb. And again, goodness knows where I found this cog, but I have a stash of them. So I simply just slide it through the pin, and then I take the pin and run it through that cotton thread and attach it. Just some added interest. Now, what I like to do always is I take my glue, and on the back, I add a few daubs around the top just to adhere those strings together so that they don't fall out. And guys, that's it. That is how simple it is to make a gift tag using stencils that you have. You have stencils from all over, I am sure. Make sure it's a nice large stencil so that it gives you a great gift tag. Here's that original, the one that I did with a piece of material. And here's the one with the string, the cotton string. So they both come out equally as good as one another. Let me bring the others back in so you can see them all together. Here's that sweet butterfly. Remember, this is from a Lavinia sticker stencil set. These are fish from the Lavinia sticker stencil sets. Here's a rabbit, and this comes from the cardio stencils. And here's that raindrop. And this also is a stencil from Cardio. So take a peek in your stash and look at all the stencils you have and see what you could do to turn them into some sort of a tag. It's fun to do. It's easy to do. It uses up your scraps. Does not take a lot of time. So if you decide to make some of these cute ones from stencils or sticker stencils, show us, share with us your creations on the pages on Facebook. Make sure you tag me. That way I get to see them right away. And most of all, have fun doing this. That's what it's all about. Just having a good time. Thanks so much for watching, and I'm going to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.